Hey, everybody. We are so excited to be with you. And this week, we're going to talk about spring cleaning for your mind. And
let's take out the trash.
Take out the trash. And, you know, the number one strategy to take out the trash is sleep. Because when you sleep, your brain cleans or washes itself. It actually opens up new it's called a glymphatic system, a fluid system that goes to work washing your brain. It also helps to integrate memories and what happened during the day.
And yet we have time change, which robs us of.
Oh my goodness.
I'm still adjusting.
It's like mass jet lag.
Yeah.
For no good reason.
Right.
It's sort of like the appendix. It's a remnant. It's left over from something in the past. It had some function that it doesn't. But before we get to spring cleaning your mind, you want to read Angel.Joe?
Yes. Let's see here. I am so thankful I found this podcast. I really wish I had the ability to go to one of the clinics. I've suffered so much with mental illness, quote unquote, for as long as I can remember. Medication after medication after medication, provider after provider, suicidal ideation, different diagnoses. I feel like I have no emotion being on medication. I look forward to listening to the entire series and reading your books and hopefully finding a way out and finding me. Not sure if it will be possible to come off these medications or if I can find a good psychiatrist in my area, but now I have hope. That is so sad. That's by Angel.Joe.
So Angel.Joe, be a winner of either my book, Your Brain is Always Listening, or Tana's The Relentless Courage of a Scared Child. You just have to write us, let us know which one you want. We'll sign them and send them off to you. Mm-hmm. So spring cleaning for your mind. So where do you think thoughts come from?
Well, I think some of them are kind of random. They're spontaneous based on your surroundings, and we just allow them to sort of take over.
I was thinking about that today, where thoughts come from. And then I thought about our three girls. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they're written in your genetic code from the traumas and experiences of your ancestral roots. We've talked about the ancestral dragon. So I was thinking, Brianne, our oldest daughter, when she was little, she was hiding behind my leg. Mm-hmm. Whenever somebody would come around. So she had fearful thoughts without anything really to be afraid of. There were not significant traumatic experiences. And then her sister, Caitlin, as soon as somebody would come by, she'd wave and say, "Hi, my name's Caitlin." And
she's still kind of that way.
And Chloe came out.
I'm the leader, I'm the boss. Like everything. And she's still that way.
And had 12-word sentences when she was 2. Right. And it's interesting. So thoughts come from your genes, from your.
Are you saying parents. She got that from me?
I'm the leader, I'm the boss is pretty close. But thoughts also come from how healthy your brain is.
Yeah.
Because when you don't sleep, you're more likely to have an ant infestation.
Oh, there's no question. And like I woke up at 4:30 this morning for no good reason, and my brain started to spin on all the things. That just happens. And I had to keep, so what I do when that happens, I had to keep reminding myself, broom, start sweeping them away. Then another one would come in, broom, sweep it away. Another one would come in. But it happens though. They start to
think of spring cleaning.
Broom, taking out the trash.
Sweep it away. Broom, sweep it away. Mm-hmm. That's a really great strategy. Thoughts also come from the news you listen to.
Yeah, I don't. I stopped.
It comes from the music and the lyrics you listen to. It comes from your mother's voice, from your father's voice. Even if they're dead, you still have their voice in your head, approving of you or disapproving of you. It comes from the mean girls that you experienced in high school and that I experienced because I have 5 sisters. It comes from just teachers and coaches. And so what's really important to understand is you are not your thoughts. You are not your mind, that you don't have to own them. And I tell this to my patients over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not the thoughts you have that make you suffer. It's the thoughts you attach to that make you suffer. We did this great evaluation of Jessime Peluso in the clinic yesterday. She's a comedian, and I'd done her podcast, and we agreed I'd evaluate her and we'd film it. So it's going to be public. And just like you, in the middle of the night, her mom died in November. And it's like the demon thoughts attack her. We changed those into ants, and I gave her a little anteater just to remind her not to believe every stupid thing she thinks. And the thought was basically what I think so many people worry about. It's no one will love me.
Yeah.
And so one way you clean your mind is you write down your negative thoughts. And your brain is always listening. There's an exercise on write down 100 of your worst thoughts and then challenge them in the way that we teach you with 5 questions from Byron Katie's work. It's just so powerful.
Right. I think that's been one of the most helpful things for me in overcoming my past. It's challenging my thoughts.
Yeah. And then you will spring clean your mind. It will smell right. It will look right. It will give you energy. And, I know during the pandemic, a lot of people, because they just had more time at home, clean. Right? Didn't we do that for
every cabinet? Yeah. And then we did it again.
And then again. So when I talk about spring cleaning for your mind, what other things come to mind for you?
So I like the challenging your thoughts. I like, for me, using the broom analogy and just sort of sweeping. I think being present. So we get so busy and we don't pay attention. And being present and paying attention, I think also to how we interact with others. So noticing how we interact with others. I think being aware of intention is really important because sometimes people don't say what they mean. There's something else behind what's going on with them. So I think we react. So maybe not reacting and paying attention. What's the intention going on is important. So I think this is a really important thing. If you've got kids, you know what I'm talking about. Your kids don't always say what they mean. They use code all the time, but they want a reaction from you. They want to know, am I loved? Am I this? Am I that? Whatever. But they don't say it that way, and they can be pretty triggering. So stepping back and not reacting, but paying attention to their intentions is important because it's hard. It's triggering.
We talked about if your mind is messy, that journaling the thoughts, challenging the thoughts is so important. But part of it comes from a brain that's struggling. Coming up soon, I'm going to tell you about a happiness study that we did at Amen Clinics. It's a big deal. We have scanned 500 people, and we have their Oxford happiness questionnaire. And if your brain's not healthy, you're not healthy. So part of when we come back, part of spring cleaning your mind is also spring cleaning your cabinets
Yeah.
in the kitchen.
And I think what I was trying to say, and what's really important right now, especially people, all you gotta do is turn on the news, which don't do that, but you know what I'm talking about, or look at social media and you see everyone reacting to everyone. And I think what I'm trying to get at with that is, you know, when people say something to you or about you, it's rarely about you. It's about them. It's about what's going on with them. So that's what I'm trying to get at, is step back and realize that a lot of what's going on around you or what you're hearing is not about you. It's about what's going on with another person. If you can step back and be present and ask yourself, oh, I wonder why that person is saying that. I wonder why these people are saying that. It will change how you react.
So what did you learn during this podcast? Write it down. Post it on any of your social media sites. Hashtag Brain Warriors Way podcast. Our podcast is growing. We just went over 12 million downloads.
We'd love if you share it.
Isn't that amazing? So help us grow our Brain Warrior community. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We are talking about spring cleaning your mind today. I think before we get started, though, we want to read a review.
I have a review from Canada. Megan Cairnray. I stumbled across Dr. Amen's work about a year ago at the start of the lockdown and his TED Talk on the results of 83,000 SPECT scans, and it sparked a journey unlike any other. I was diagnosed with PTSD roughly 15 years ago, along with obsessive compulsive personality disorder, ADD, and later came the fibromyalgia label. From the initial findings of Dr. Amen's work to today, my life is completely different. I have completed a year of EMDR therapy, overhauled most of my dragons and lifestyle factors, and returned to school to complete my education in clinical psychology. Wow. It's incredible what changes can be made from finding that spark of truth in another person's work. I had the privilege of attending his Zoom meeting for the pre-order of Your Brain is Always Listening, and it reiterated the importance of his work and the people who do it. We have so much more power than we think. Please check out these podcast segments. They're quick, captivating, and even addicting. Dr. Amen is a fountain of knowledge and shares it in such a way that any person can comprehend and enjoy. Thank you for your work, and I look forward to contributing to the field in years to come. Well, that just gave me goosebumps.
I know, that was amazing.
That just gave me goosebumps.
That's why we do it.
And you're right. There's no way I could do this without you. You make it easy, you make it fun. And I'm glad that we actually take time to spring clean our own minds, right? It just helps you get along better with others when you don't believe every stupid thing you think.
Right. Spring cleaning, we can't not talk about food. So when you're spring cleaning your cabinets, and especially during the pandemic, I think a lot of people got lazy. I think there were times we gave in a little bit. We let the kids eat, a little bit. We were a little more lax, I think, because you feel like everything got taken away. But I noticed I wasn't feeling like myself, right? I was feeling a little more bleh. And I think that's the clinical term for it, bleh. And so, but fortunately we know better. I was eating more carbs, and I do better on a keto type diet. So when I eat a lot of carbs, I just don't feel right. My brain starts to feel foggy. So when we did spring cleaning, for spring cleaning for my mind means reevaluating my diet. And so, you notice it when I go back on my program, it takes me no more than 2 days, and bam, like it's like Lazarus effect. So
what should people do when they go through their kitchen?
Well, I don't think there's one diet that fits everyone. I think there are some people out there who are vegan. If you are vegan, we'll help you do it the cleanest way and the healthiest way that you can. Vegan is not synonymous with health. There are people out there who are cavemen. Okay, fine. Brain Warrior's Way is more like a modified, it's close to paleo, but it's modified. Way more greens. It's not way more, plant-based foods. And it's not, there are some, we don't believe you can just have a bunch of honey and stuff like that. So it's modified. And it's also based on your brain. So that's what I mean by one diet doesn't fit all. So I do better with low carb, but not everyone in my house does. Some people need healthy carbohydrates. They need smart carbs. So my daughter gets completely like sort of just hyper focused on problems and a little OCD if she doesn't have some smart carbs. So
as you go through your cabinets, with each item, just ask yourself, good for my brain or bad for it, that it is critical to read the food labels.
Right. And we have a list in Brain Warrior's Way cookbook. If you're not quite sure you want that list, I think it's actually on my website as well, tanaamen.com. I think I put it there. A list to help you clean out your cabinets. And we have shopping lists as well. So I know I have the shopping list on the website to help you. It's like, it's replace this with that. So you don't need to erase, you need to replace, right? So get rid of these things, but replace them with this. No one wants to feel deprived, but you want to get rid of processed foods. For most people, they feel better when they're eating, if you're going to eat some carbs, make them smart carbs, gluten-free. Not everyone responds the same way to gluten, but most people feel better when they're doing.
I think Dr. Perlmutter said 100% of people who eat gluten increase leaky gut.
Yeah, they do. Not everyone feels the same extreme, but it's not good for anyone. It doesn't serve a purpose in your health. So I think that's the point. And for dairy, for some people is very extreme, and for other people, not so much. For me, it's pretty extreme. So you want to clean, but mostly get rid of the processed food and the sugar. Start there. Processed food and sugar. If you just start there and you start replacing and you start figuring out, do I do better with a heavily plant-based diet and a little bit of clean protein? Do I do better on a, more of a plant-based keto, or do I do better on a caveman diet? Figure out what works for you and then start cleaning up your diet, because within a couple of days, you're going to feel better. And it's going to change your thoughts. It's going to change how you think.
So spring cleaning your mind requires you to eat in a healthier way.
It also requires movement. So this is a funny story. I love this story. I was talking to a friend of ours who's a police officer, and I was complaining that I was feeling blah, my clinical term. And I'm like, I just feel kind of blah these last few months of, quarantine. And I'm like, I'm still moving. I'm eating pretty healthy. I'm working out every day. He goes, yeah, but are you? And I'm like, no, I am. I'm in my gym. I'm moving. He goes, yeah, but here's the difference. He goes, when you were practicing karate every day, you had to adapt to an intense environment. You had to adapt to your environment. Now you've adapted to walking on a treadmill and watching Netflix. And you've adapted to sitting around in fuzzy socks and watching Netflix all day. You've adapted to your environment. And it was like, ding, ding, ding. It was a light switch moment. What I realized is that how you move matters. So move like you mean it. Move with purpose. Your physiology is one of the fastest ways to change how you feel. It's one of the fastest ways to change your thoughts and your thinking. So when I shut off Netflix, put on some really inspiring music, and started moving with more intensity, with more purpose. And I instantly changed how I felt.
So if you're going to spring clean your mind, I like this. This is really important. That don't accept every stupid thought you have. Challenge them. You have to eat right, to think right. Mm-hmm. So spring clean your cabinets. And there's a lot of junk in people's cabinets because early in the pandemic, when we were
grabbing everything we could.
We were grabbing things that are still there.
Right.
So getting rid of them is good, right? I always say,
I put them in my
decision, not 30.
I put them in my end of world storage. The ones like the canned goods,
So
things like that.
but a lot of canned goods are fine.
Right. Well,
Right.
but even
And a lot of
and the
them
ones that are
not.
not things you would normally eat, just put them in your end of world storage. Your emergency. I know you'll never be able to say we don't need that again.
Yeah. And don't donate them to the poor, because why are you going to make the poor eat bad food?
Okay, well, but they need to eat something. So if you're going to donate, I mean, it's good to donate something. But save your really unhealthy stuff for your end of world, like survival mode type food.
So spring cleaning your mind, directing your thoughts in a helpful way, eating right, moving right. Did you know during the pandemic, 60%, 6 out of 10 people, their weight changed fairly dramatically.
Yeah.
40% gained weight.
The COVID-19.
And in some groups it was 41 pounds.
Holy cow.
In younger people, it was actually more. And
that's insane.
And a lot of people lost a lot of weight
because they were anxious.
Because they were anxious and upset, or they didn't have access to this.
Well, and some people didn't do so badly, and they found time to exercise outside. So
yes, some people use this time to get healthy. More people,
more anxious,
became unhealthy. So spring cleaning your mind is really the first place to start, because if you allow the anxiety to overwhelm you, then you're going to do all the wrong things. So we want you to do the right things for you. And when we come back, I'm going to give you a very special technique that we're going to end up talking about a lot over the coming year. So what did you learn? Write it down. Hashtag Brain Warriors Way podcast, but highlight it. Spring clean your mind. And we'll be back. Welcome back. We're talking about spring cleaning your mind. And today I'm going to give you a very fun technique I think you'll like a lot. But you have something to read.
Have a review that says wonderful by J and S Hillman. This podcast has been wonderful. I've only been listening for a short time, only because I just found it, but I fully intend to binge it. I've been struggling for years. Now I'm trying to find a way to make a scan happen for me. I've bought the cookbook and have just started reading Your Brain is Always Listening. I came across Tana and Daniel Amen listening to Robin McGraw's I've Got a Secret. I'm trying the Happy Saffron now. I'm hoping with this and working on my part, I can clear the 10 years plus of brain fog, as my grandmother would say. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's so awesome. Our friend Robin McGraw. That's so cool.
I love that. We should let her know.
Yeah.
All right. Spring clean your mind. I'm just finishing, actually, this week, my book for next year. You'll hear all about it.
You say that like it's normal to write a book a year.
That's normal for me. And I just, I loved Your Brain is Always Listening. It was really one of my favorite books to write.
It's a really good book.
But the world is unhappier now than it has been in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see is there a way to be happy in unhappy times? And so the new book is called You Happier, the neuroscience of feeling good based on your brain type. Now, you'll hear all sorts of things about it. It's not out till next March, but there's one technique in the book I love a lot. And I actually got it from this podcast when we interviewed Dr. Stephen Hayes. And we interviewed him about acceptance and commitment therapy act. And he had this idea of give your mind a name. And the name he gave his mind was George. And as we were doing the podcast, I'm like, well, what name would I give my mind? And it's based on a concept called psychological distancing. If you can separate yourself from the noise in your head, you're happier. That you just don't have to believe the storms that come through, like you were talking at the beginning of the week on, you wake up in the middle of the night and there are the negative thoughts.
I've got twins fighting in my head.
And you get the broom and sweep the thoughts away. Well, another way to do that is to give your mind a name. And I gave my mind the name of Hermie, who was my pet raccoon when I was 16. And I loved this raccoon. I loved me.
But she was a troublemaker.
Oh my God. She was so beautiful and so cute. But she
sounds like our cat. Beautiful, cute, and just a troublemaker.
Oh, she would TP my mom's bathroom.
She ate your sister's goldfish. She pooped in your shoe. He came back pregnant. That's how you realized he was a she.
He was a she.
Right.
And I raised her Catholic. We'd say prayers and then she's Aussie.
Right.
She just loose. I mean, it was really disturbing for me. And that's my mind.
Yeah.
Not the loose part.
I don't know about that. But anyways.
But it's my mind in that it just causes trouble. Right? I mean, it's adorable.
So I think, I think that's so funny because yours is cute and funny. Mine are just evil. Mine are just, yeah. I got twins fighting in my head.
And as I've been playing with this concept, I realize Hermie holds up signs all the time about you're a bad CEO, or someone else's book is better than yours, or you're going to get sued, or you're going to die.
That's funny. Both of mine have a foul mouth. Detective Mullins and Beth. So, and they're in there constantly just fighting. And
so you named your mind. And as you're listening to this, what name would you give your mind?
So mine is Detective Mullins from The Heat. I think she's so funny, but she's not all that nice.
Melissa McCarthy.
Oh my God, character. I love her. I love her so much. But then Beth from Yellowstone. I mean, she's pretty twisted, but she's kind of awesome, but she's pretty twisted. So yeah, those two are constantly, and they're very foul mouthed. And that's my mind content to do that.
So when Hermie's acting up, I can metaphorically put her in her cage because I can choose to listen to her or not. And what I've been thinking about recently, I really love this raccoon. I used to put her on a cat leash and we'd go to the beach.
Oh, I know where this is going. Oh, geez. It's like walking a puppy, only worse.
Hermie's the best way to pick up girls.
Yeah.
But she loved to be stroked. She loved to be tickled.
Oh, I can, yeah. And you're going to try and tell me that you're not loose? Like Hermie?
I'm not.
Well, you're not now.
I'm not now. In college, I was actually voted biggest sport.
Yeah.
But that was then. When my mind acts up, rather than put Hermie in the cage, I metaphorically put her on her back and tickle her.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's like, I just don't have to take it seriously. And if you don't have to take yourself seriously, you're going to be so much happier. And it's just a wonderful, simple, yet profound.
I have to figure out what I'm going to do with Detective Mullins and Beth. I can't put them on their backs and tickle them. What am I going to do with them?
Well, you can choose to ignore them.
Yeah, they're not really ignorable. Maybe I need to rename my mind. Something I have a bit more control over.
Yeah, those two you would have no
hope of controlling.
When Detective Mullins would get
I love her so much.
She would just be so hard
She's so
on
brave.
other people. For those of you who've not seen The Heat, that will make you happy. It's just 2 hours of insanity and fun. So spring clean your mind by psychologically distancing yourself from the whirlwind. So we've talked about, please don't believe every stupid thing you think. When you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write it down. Ask yourself if it's true. If you can absolutely know that it's true, you're going to spring clean your mind. You have to move more. It sort of gets the cobweb.
Yeah, and you got to
move. True with you.
It's one of the fastest ways to change your mood is to change your physiology. So, but you got to move. How you move matters. So move like you mean it.
Coordination exercises seem to be super helpful. Mm-hmm. Eating right. There's a linear correlation between the number of fruits and vegetables you eat a day and your level of happiness. Mm-hmm. So BrainMD makes something called neurogreens. They're actually not just greens. It's greens. It's powder from healthy organic green foods and red foods and blue foods and purple foods and orange foods. I mean, it's just really great. We put it in our shake every morning. All of these things can just be so helpful for you. When we come back, we're going to answer several of your questions. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We've been talking about spring cleaning for your brain. So many great tips that we've had this week. And now we're going to read a review and we're going to answer some questions and talk about a couple of current things going on.
All right. Della Hosanna from the US. I really enjoy your podcast, which feels very short.
That's intentional.
It will be good to listen to each topic for more than 12 minutes. So just string them together because
it's a week. We intend them to be a week.
For a week.
It's for our ADD audience.
I wanted to have a mentor, but it is difficult for me to connect with someone nevertheless to get a mentor. Like Tana, I had a very difficult childhood and didn't have any role models growing up that would guide me through life. However, my decisions were bad and I took refuge in drugs and alcohol. Now I find it difficult to connect with people and with my confidence in myself. I would love to treat this condition so that I can be a better mother. My self-destructive patterns are affecting my relationship with my children. I feel like they are drifting away too.
Oh. Well, I love that you're listening to our podcast. And one thing I would love to tell you, this is Della.
Della Hosanna.
So one thing I would love to tell you is that when I was in that position, mentors, you don't need to actually know them. So I love what Tony Robbins says when he says success leaves clues. You can copy people. And when I first started finding mentors, they were people I did not know. I would literally take their work and tape it to my mirror. I would listen to people that I didn't know. Later, I was able to find mentors that I knew and that, would connect with me. But you can still find mentors, people that you respect, people who have been there where you are now and overcome and follow what they do. That's just the first step in mentorship is, there's different levels of mentorship, and that's a huge one. So find several people you respect, you love what they're doing, where their life is now, they've been where you're at, and you're going to overcome like they have, and just do what they do, copy them.
That's so smart. You're so smart. Love that about you. All right, brain in the news. We haven't done that in a long time. We're going to do brain in the news and then answer some questions. So, how much sleep do you really need? The Daily Mail actually had an article about this, and it was like a big headline, and the answer was 7 to 9 hours for most people.
Yeah, I know I need 8. And since time change, it's been really hard for me. That was the one thing during quarantine. I slept like so much. It was so good. Now I'm just like, I keep waking up in the middle of the night. It's just like, it changes during time change.
But you also have us working out at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I do. So we have to get up early, but I actually feel better when we do that. But it's an interesting time depending on what's going on in your life. We've got a kid leaving for college, and that's got me stressed out. And so learning how to manage your stress is important.
The next article, teenagers and young adults have had their mental health battered by the coronavirus pandemic. According to a vast study of medical records and insurance claims, self-harming behavior in children went up 400%.
Yeah, it's so sad. I actually know some kids doing that. I know some adults doing that. That's really hard.
Well, and the big thing in the news have been these mass shootings again, both in Atlanta and in Boulder, Colorado. I mean, it's just really even hard to imagine in Boulder, Colorado, that this was at a grocery store. And there was a headline in USA Today, mass shooters not associated with mental illness. And
how is that possible?
That's insane.
How is that possible?
That is trying to take a very complicated problem and give it a simple solution.
Yeah, that's not even possible.
These are just bad people.
Yeah.
And it's way complicated than that.
And I'm not one to protect people from consequences at all, like not even a little bit. I think people need to pay consequences, but to say it's disconnected from mental health is ridiculous. Anyone who does something like that has got something going on mentally.
Or physically in their brain.
But it manifests mentally.
It manifests mentally. I've actually had the opportunity to scan a couple of, more than
Kip Kinkle was a famous one.
Murderers.
Yeah.
But Kip Kinkle,
he was 15.
Shot and killed his mom and dad, and then went to his high school and shot 25 people.
Yeah.
His brain was one of the worst brains that I'd ever seen for a 15-year-old. He must have had anoxia or some form of toxic exposure that just ate away his brain. It's easy to call people bad. It's way harder to ask why they do what they do. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go to jail, and it doesn't mean there shouldn't be consequences, because there are people who have bad brains that never do anything.
Well, and we have to protect the innocent.
We have to protect the innocent, always. So I only have a couple of minutes left. Some questions. Can stress age the brain? Absolutely.
100%.
High cortisol levels, stress hormones shrink cells in the hippocampus.
In fact, stress is one of the worst things.
Stress is one of the worst things.
And it's also one of the worst things for your health in general. Cancer, heart attacks, diabetes. Yeah.
Do vaccines cause infertility? There's just no evidence.
I don't think we know, but also one of the big answers that hasn't been answered, and one of the reasons so many people get upset about vaccines, we're not anti-vaxxers. We're just more like, what's the science on this? Some vaccines have obviously saved millions, billions of lives, but One of the concerns I have is over vaccinating and layering and not having enough research on what happens when we layer too many of them. So that's the big question mark, is what happens when we layer too many of them. I think that's one of the big things that gets people really concerned.
Do you have an idea on how to stop recurring thoughts? Write them down, question them. And you may need to do it 100 or maybe even 1,000 times.
Yeah, but also I have to jump in here because like this time change, we talked about it earlier in this week's episodes. Things like time change and stress and your kids leaving and going to college or whatever can cause these thoughts that spin. I get this mouse on a wheel at 4 o'clock in the morning. It just happens. It's been happening a lot. GABA helps me so much.
Please take it.
I know. It helps so much.
How many alcoholic drinks do you recommend a week?
Do we recommend or can you get away with? Those are two very different things.
Yeah, the answer is none. There is a correlation between any alcohol and cancer. And so the American Cancer Society came out last year and recommended against any alcohol. Now, I realize people are going to have a drink or two, but not a day.
No.
If you want a smaller brain, have a drink or two a day, according to a study from Johns Hopkins.
So I think we've sort of figured out that a couple drinks a week you can kind of get away with.
What research is new in this book that hasn't been found in the others? For me, it's the dragons. That's new. I've never talked about big mental health issues where I talked about their origin, what triggers them, how they cause us to react, and how to tame them.
And sort of how you present it is different. So what I really like is you take some very complex topics and present them in a way that is really digestible. It's easy to understand, and it makes it more, I don't want to use the word entertaining, but it's easier to, it's more digestible.
It's more fun.
Yeah.
This book is more fun than the rest. Can you reverse damage to the brain caused by drinking and smoking weed? What we did with Jessime Peluso yesterday, showed her the damage. And if she does what I ask her to do, including losing both of those, her brain will be better. I mean, it's really what our work is all about. Mm-hmm. How can you have a better brain? Because with a better brain, always comes a better life. So what'd you learn today? Write it down, post it on any of your social media sites, hashtag Brain Warriors Way podcast. Also go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com, leave us a comment, question, or review. If we read it on the air, we will enter you into a drawing to win one of our books. Thanks for being with us.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're interested in coming to Amen Clinics, use the code PODCAST10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.